Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 64 with Molly Rose Speed. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess Wicks, and I am your host. And today we have such a fun show planned. I'm interviewing my dear friend, but also fellow businesswoman, Miss Molly Rose Speed. And I'm going to be honest, we get pretty deep in this episode. Now, before I get too far into explaining the episode and telling you all about my guest, I did want to take a second to tell you about something that I'm super excited about and I think you might take a lot of interest in. So if you don't know, I am a financial coach. I work with women and couples one-on-one. I also do online programs, but I wanted to tell you about my one-on-one coaching because spots have been filling up quite fast for the summer, and I have a handful of spots left, about 5 left. So if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, this is what you'll get out of it. I work with people, we sit down and we build out a financial roadmap to help guide them on their financial journey to figure out, okay, what are those next steps I need to be taking? What are the goals that I should really be prioritizing today? I think the biggest problem that people have, especially if you're ready for financial coaching, maybe you have some money coming in, you know you're paying off your debt pretty well, but you don't know how to prioritize this additional money. Should you top up that emergency savings fund? Should you just pay off all of your debt? Should you start preparing for having a baby or maybe saving for a wedding? Or what about a down payment on a house? What about buying a new car or a new to you used car in full instead of financing it? There's so many options of things you can do, and not to mention those long-term savings like retirement. Am I right? So there's a lot of options out there for us, and I love to sit down with my clients and hammer out their goals and prioritize them so that they have a lot more guidance and almost just know how to take direct and focused action so they can see those goals through. So we do that all in a 3-month span of that one-on-one coaching. And if you're interested in learning more about the coaching and you want to sit down with me for a free 30-minute one-on-one discovery call, then you can apply at wanderwealthy.com/apply, and you can fill out the form and sign up for a discovery call, and then we can talk more about the coaching, see if it's the right fit for you, see if you're ready for that next step in your financial life. But if you do get into coaching with me, I can tell you, you will be taking massive action and you will be seeing those results come through. What is it that you want to achieve? Let's get after it. So wanderwealthy.com/apply. Now I'm going to tell you about our guest today. I'm super excited because she is a dear friend of mine, and I think you'll realize that pretty quickly on in the show. But she's also a businesswoman. Molly Rose is the operations guru for online entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who want to take their businesses online. She started out as a virtual assistant, doing a lot of email work for people, kind of getting bits and pieces of their business set up, and then she really ramped herself up into this position where she can become the COO for various entrepreneurs, really helping their businesses thrive and create processes and systems that scale online. Now, the other reason why I love that Molly Rose is on this episode today is because her and her husband together do some pretty unconventional things with money. I'm not going to divulge too much into it because I just think you need to stick around to find out. But this was one highly requested topic that people had requested when I surveyed you before I revitalized the podcast. And I thought immediately of Molly Rose because I knew that she did some of these different things. And so if you're looking for other opportunities, I will say we both are not the combined experts. You definitely need to seek out professionals in order to do some of these things. But I just wanted to share that material and that opportunity with you so that you know that there are other routes you can take instead of the traditional financial planning or financial tools and methods you would use traditionally. So I'm not going to go too much more into this episode because I just want you to listen and find out and learn more. But I will say you can tell that Molly Rose and I are friends. And so we get into this stuff pretty deep and we try to explain it all for you and share our personal experiences with you So that is what you have to look forward to today. Let's get into the episode now. Here is episode 64 with Molly Rose Speed. Hello, Molly Rose. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you on the Wander Wealthy podcast.
Hey, Tess. Thanks so much for having me. Driving with some iced coffee, which if you know Tess Wicks, she certainly loves that. And I'm just enjoying a sunny Florida day and doing a little work from the office.
Oh, how I miss iced coffee so much. It's not fair. But I love that, is it frugal iced coffee? Did you make it at home?
Sure did. Toddy coffee.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Oh, Toddy. Okay, so we're just going to be very open here. Molly and I have known each other for many years, and you actually bought me and Amanda, my old roommate, a toddy maker, and it was like my favorite thing when I was back in Chicago. I did not bring it to Italy, but I feel like I should go back to Chicago and get it and bring it to Italy.
I did do that. I forgot about that. And actually, that would be a great supplement for you to get your iced coffees over there because you can make it yourself.
I know. Gosh, I gotta get on that. Anyway, enough about me and my sad coffee addiction. Let's get into our interview today. I wanted to interview you because so many people have asked about unconventional ways of managing money, and you are one of the first people that came to mind because I know that you've done things a lot differently now and in the past. And we're just going to kind of share it. And whether, for those of you who don't know, Molly is a military spouse. So she has, this different way of life just because of that. But I do think that is interesting. And there probably are some military spouses, if that's the plural term, out there. Mm-hmm. So I would love to kind of talk about that and some things that you do, and some because you're a military spouse, and some things that you do not just because of that, but because you just choose to do money differently. But before we get into that, I just want you to share your story, because another cool thing about you is that you have quit your job, you started a business, and one of the parts of your business, actually both parts of your business, basically help people make more money in their life. So I want you to share kind of how you got to where you are today, and if you want to, share how money has played a role in that.
Sure, absolutely. So way back when I graduated college and was dating someone that was going to be active duty military very quickly. And I realized I would be moving out of the great state of Iowa. And I followed him to Florida. And I had 3 jobs within 3 years. I was kind of soul searching around corporate America. I'm sure there's a lot of us millennials that are continuing to do that. Mm-hmm. And I loved some of them, and I strongly disliked others. And some of my roles was a manager at Target. My last role was be an analyst at a hospital. It was very bone dry. And I realized one day that this isn't the life I wanted to live. One of my major passions is travel, and this wasn't supporting that lifestyle now or anywhere in my future. And so I quit cold turkey. My husband was deployed. Actually, we were just about to get married. He was deployed. And I came back to a wife without a job. And I realized quickly that I had to come up with something that could supplement our income and also allow me the flexibility to travel, the flexibility to see him pre and post deployments because he's gone a lot. And along came this magical world of supporting entrepreneurs as a virtual assistant. I didn't know what it was when I was getting into it. I just took one job, freelance job for somebody, crowdfunding a marketing campaign. And it just spiraled into there from referrals and a ton of learning about the world of supporting online entrepreneurs. So this task of being a virtual assistant evolved, and I've taken on 10 to 20 clients throughout my time, and I do project work, I do retainer work. And on top of that, I train other people in how to start virtual assistant businesses in my program called the Academy for Virtual Assistants business course. And I did this because I was realizing there's a huge demand for this skill set. And there's also a huge demand for the desire to be able to work remote. And many of these people are military spouses. That's kind of my niche, you could say. And it's kind of just snowballed into this wonderful thing. And the great part about this is money has never been more free flowing. If I want to earn it, I have the opportunity to go get a job and earn it, or take a project, or work on a Saturday morning and bill by the hour, whatever it is. Where in the corporate world, I was fixed to an income unless I did stuff after hours, and that wasn't really an option. So it's pretty exciting career.
Yes. Oh, I love that because, well, first of all, you have like so many valid reasons of why you wanted to break away from the corporate world. And some people don't want to, and that's okay. But also you can do virtual assistant work on the side and just make additional money. So like, even if you don't want to, become full-time virtual assistant or completely quit your job, this is also a great way to make additional money. And I think that is extremely beneficial when people are out there trying to pay off debt or try to start, boosting their investment accounts or whatever financial goals they have.
Absolutely. Extremely flexible. And I'm really blessed that I found it. And the other great part I probably didn't speak up enough is the ability to work remote. I travel as much as I can when my husband deploys, and within 2-month period, I'm in 4 different countries earning an income because I can still serve my clients wherever I am. So
Yes.
That's the best part.
Yes. And what I really liked that you said was that you have control over your income. And that is something that I actually recently did Facebook Live in the Wealthy Wanderers private Facebook group. And I just had this thought one day. Now, once this, interview goes live, it'll probably be a month or month and a half old, but I was sharing about this idea of being afraid of going broke and how my boyfriend and I were having that conversation. He's a 9-to-5er, or more like a 10 to 10 p.m.er. And I'm on my own, making my own, if I work, I make money. If I don't make money. And we were talking about this fear, and it was funny because I don't know, maybe you can chime in here, but like, I personally don't have that fear because I had to go through the process of figuring out that I am in control of making money and no one has that control over me. Whereas if you are in that 9-to-5 world, someone has control over that paycheck that you get. I'd like to know kind of how you feel about that or what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I didn't realize that was actually happening until probably a few years ago. And I've been out of corporate America it'll be 6 years. And I think when you're in it, you don't see that. You don't understand the concept because you're just used to this 9-to-5 grind, getting your paycheck at the end of the couple weeks and going from there. But once you have this opportunity to earn on your terms, it is so freeing. You feel very abundant. And if you get your product down and your services down, it just comes in. Like the thought of not actually earning money doesn't really hit you at all, because you get these retainer clients and you just get better and better at what you do. So I think that it's really powerful.
Yeah, for me it's like and let's be real, we're going to get into this a little bit deeper. It is definitely not all sunshine and rainbows, and you're like my virtual coworker, so we talk about that a lot.
Absolutely.
But I've also kind of, what's been cool for me is when I'm building my business or when I'm in control of my income, and I want to make sure that this is relatable to people who aren't, thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, but just knowing that you do have control over some sort of way of making money. Like you can do additional stuff on the side if you need it and if you want it, and you can leverage your skills to get it. And for me, it's been like there's weeks or months, let's say, where I really want to focus on something that I'm building. And so when I'm in building phase, I'm not necessarily out there making deals or selling courses or pitching or selling my coaching. And so instead I'm building. But I've been able to kind of turn to my boyfriend now that we cohabitate. I've been able to turn to him and go, I know that this, potentially could be scary for you, thinking, oh, am I going to have to like fend for her if she's, putting her focus on building instead of selling? And I had this moment where I was like, no, because I know exactly what I'd have to do right now if I needed to make money. Like if my savings got drained and I had to go out and make money, I know exactly what I'd have to do. And I feel like that's kind of the place that you come from once you figure out that you are able to leverage your skills to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something else just to make very clear, you have a partner, I'm married, and it really does help. Like having, for those of you that are listening and you have that secondary income, it does. Sometimes it can help so much that it's a crutch and it stops you from your potential. Sometimes it's a burden on the relationship, but if you can really communicate and make it clear, like this is what I'm expecting of myself to earn, this is what I'm going to do with it together as partners, it really helps. But I don't want to say I couldn't have done what I did by jumping from corporate America without my counterpart, other than insurance. I would say anyone can do this, and if I don't, I can just wait tables a few nights a week, and I'm still paying the bills, but I'm still changing the trajectory of my career for the rest of my life. Yeah. So you kind of have to take those risks if you need to, and have ideas and things in place to be able to sustain you.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about that because, or I want to talk about this, which is the hard stuff, because, we were making it sound like, oh, you can just go out and make some money. No. But it's definitely, there's like a period where you have to figure out what those skills are, or you have to figure out how to price yourself. And you've gone through it, and then you've also gone through helping other people figure that out. And I'd love to hear for you, what was a big challenge? How did you overcome it? And how do you use that lesson to teach some of your students that go through your academy?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something, as you well know, I'm still going through. I'm constantly thinking about.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. So it's an ever-changing aspect of business, unless you're selling a widget, and that's what it is. And it's easy. I'm jealous of those people that have something in their hands that they're selling. But I think over time, you start small. So when I give advice to people in my program, I'm always stay humble, learn. You're learning as you're going, and you're actually getting paid to learn. Right. So keep it small and start here with your first client, and then add 10% on your next proposal, and then another 10%, and just grow it and see how it goes and see what people respond to. And you'll be making a really great hourly or retainer price point, and you're very proud of it because you've grown into that. You're giving yourself raises essentially, and your skill set matches that because you're letting time evolve. And it's fair for you and it's fair for the client. So that's kind of the advice I give on pricing. And then for myself, I have my own coaches that I reach out to, and I'm vetting the pricing process and making sure it's validated and making sure it's fair for the services that I offer as well. So it's really hard and interesting, and I can go into it further if you want, the specifics of what I say.
No, I think that is a good kind of overview, and if people want to go into it further, they can get into your course, because we have so many other things to cover right now. I really want to dive into first I want to make it very clear that the reason why I think it's so cool that you teach other people how to do this stuff is because I think, especially with being a VA, you can pick up as much work as you feel that you're able. And I'm always telling people in my videos or podcasts or even in coaching is if you need to make that drastic change to your finances, you can either cut things or you can figure out how to make more. And one way to do that is get educated on how to become a VA, learn how to price your stuff, and then go out and pick up the hours that you can. And then maybe you'll find out that you love it and you do want to do it full time, or maybe you find out you hate it and you just, it was a really good opportunity to make some money and now you're retiring from that. That's kind of like life experimentation. But I just think it's so important to share that there are an abundance of opportunities out there if you can figure out how to leverage your skills to help other people get what they get to where they want to go, which is working in a nutshell, doing a job and having a job and a business in a nutshell. So moving on from there, I wanted to get into our tangible tips round. And there's so many things we can focus on. And I think you brought up such a really good point about working with your husband, and you are a military spouse, so things are a bit different. Most people's husbands or partners aren't gone for a period of the year, but I'd love to hear kind of how you guys work together to do the financial things that you do. And we'll get more into specifically what it is you guys do that are a little bit unconventional. But first, just kind of ease us into it and share kind of some of the more basic financial things that you do and what your biggest tips are.
Yeah, totally. I love this question. I'm a finance major by education, I guess. So this is my favorite thing ever. So I'm kind of a nerd on it. And my counterpart, Lance, is a kinesiology major, and he's a pilot. So we are totally opposites. But one thing that we figured out really early is to talk to each other about everything. Like, we both have our hands in the cookie jar. We're both saving. We're both spending. We talk about it every month. And that's really, really important. I can't imagine. I mean, so many couples that don't discuss finances and just one of them manage it. And it's just really interesting to me because we're complete opposites. So that's something that works really well for us. And then quick tips, we save way more than we spend. We live off of just his income. And we are still saving, I think, 40% of it. Wow. And then, of course, my income adds into that. So that's really great. We're pretty frugal. And our other big thing is we don't carry debt. Like, we pay for cars. We pay off anything we borrow as soon as possible. And that makes us very free and abundant, makes us feel very abundant.
Yeah. So let's be honest for a second, because he is obviously deployed. And so that can make it easier for you to save, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, so on average years, for the past 6 years, he's been gone, 50 to 60% of the time. So that's whether he's on a 2-week trip or he's deployed overseas for 3 or 4 months at a time. So of course that trajectory is not common. Yeah.
But it's common for military spouses. So that's value in and of itself. Yeah.
So as the spouse at home, I'm not frivolously spending and going out all the time and buying things to fill the gap. And he, of course, isn't either, because he's in the middle of Middle East or something. So that's really kind of a game changer as well.
Yeah. And then you get military benefits, which are amazing. What are some military benefits that you utilize that maybe people don't know about, or, if they're their spouse is in the military, or if they're in the military?
Oh gosh, there's all sorts of stuff. So there's stuff the military offers, obviously the standard healthcare and dental and all that. That's incredible. And you can see a therapist for nothing, which I'm all into self-development. So of course we tap into that. But some of the other stuff that other people offer, like credit card companies, waive the fees from active duty military.
Wow.
So we get the really nice big credit cards.
Yeah, and you do travel hacking, which we could talk about.
Yeah. So that's allowed us to really travel hack. So we can get into the sky lounges and the airport lounges for free. Everywhere you go, there's a military discount, and I use it. And a lot of people, when you ask for a discount, I think they think, I'm not going to ask for a discount. I want people to think that I need a discount, but I ask everywhere I go, even restaurants.
Yeah.
And majority of the time they have it. So I think that's also really a big benefit.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to be shameless and ask for the discount. If you are entitled to it, then go for it, girl.
Yeah. Another big thing, I forgot about this, is space A travel. So more and more bases are starting to allow this. It's kind of a hard thing to navigate at first, but once you get it down, you can just navigate it for the rest of your life, but you can fly overseas for essentially nothing. You just hop on military planes.
Can you do that?
Yep, military spouses can do that if your spouse is on orders, so they're deployed.
Oh, okay.
And then of course when we're together, and you're assigned a certain seniority rank on whether you're going to get on the plane or not. So it's kind of how it works.
Have you done this before?
I haven't personally been able to do it yet because we haven't needed to, because we're travel hacking.
Right.
But it's on my horizon, actually, to go to Italy.
Oh, yeah, come visit me. Mm-hmm. That is super cool. I want to hear everything about, I'm sure, the wonderful, luxurious first-class amenities that you get on military planes.
Yeah. I think you hang out in the back of the hangar and I'm
imagining you with a helmet on in the back, sitting along the edge with the soldiers.
Right. I don't think it's like that.
That is me, like, just referencing all of the military movies that I've seen and nothing else. So,
Yeah, that's great.
let's just give kind of one more tip. I just love I mean, it's really cool to hear from a different perspective because you just have a different life experience than someone like me because I've never been involved with someone in the military. And one thing I want to talk about, well, first, okay, two more tips. One is how do you maintain that level of communication? I know you do get access to him when he's deployed, but like when he's not deployed, what are your monthly meetings look like? Or maybe how did they start and then how are they now? Because I do know that as time goes by and you get used to things, like obviously it's just a quick check-in, but maybe they started a lot differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So two-part. When he's deployed, because life is very different, we, throughout the years, have tried everything just to figure out what works best for us. And let's say it's something serious or it's an argument or it's something you really want to make clear, because sometimes when you're talking on the phone, they're in a talk just hanging out with other guys and girls. Yeah. So we use email. It's the best. And I've recommended this to other spouses when they're like, I just can't get through to them. I'm like, write to him.
Yeah.
Like, just write him a letter. And that seems to be really helpful. And then on average, at least from my experience, military members are very analytical. So they like to see the data and the numbers and what you're trying to actually say.
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful. And then in person, we've just kind of always been that way. We tell each other everything, probably too much.
Yeah.
And so we do sit down and dinner. We'll have dinner, we'll talk, and then we'll say, okay, we're going to spend an hour tonight looking over things. And he's the spreadsheet guy, and I'm kind of the decision maker. He runs everything by me. He's like, and I give him an answer. So we kind of just dedicate certain time to it, and we don't harp on it throughout the month. It's just, now it's the time to get this done, and let's enjoy our month, and then we'll talk about it again in a month, kind of that cycle. Because if you bring it up every day, it's kind of a burden to talk about money all the time. So
right. But I think that's so important. And I think that's like not just a money lesson, but like just a lesson for relationships in general, is understanding how to communicate in what format, even if your spouse or your partner or your, guy you're dating or girl you're dating isn't in the military, like just figuring out the best way to communicate. And then beyond that, figuring out when you do start talking about money, how they comprehend it. Because like, we don't all want to look at a spreadsheet, which is like heartbreaking to me, but I get it,
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think having both people involved, I had a fellow military spouse friend the other day tell me she wants to sit down and chat about finances and stuff because she's like, I've just always let him do it. And I just don't even know. I don't even know what he's talking about when he says Roth IRA or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's actually probably really common. And I think as partners, we should help each other educate. And if that's not the place to get it from, you should seek that out on your own to be really able to understand that.
Come listen to the Wander Wealthy podcast.
Yeah. Come to Tess, and she will tell you all the things.
No, but that is so true. I run into so many couples that I work with who they just, and many, most of the time it's the woman who doesn't go into the financial planning meeting. And so she doesn't, and even if she does, typically it's a male financial planner because a little over 70% are men. And they're talking directly to the male in the relationship. And it's sad, but that is just like just the facts. And unfortunately, that's how it happens. And so the women tend to come to me being like, I just don't feel like I get it or I understand what's going on. And I love that you brought up, figure out ways where you can educate each other. And if your partner isn't willing to sit down and educate you, then, make notes, maybe open your phone app and make notes of like the things you heard that you don't get, and then go seek out that education in the way that you're going to understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also understand that your CFP, your financial planner, is there for both of you.
Right.
So stop him and say, I need you to explain this to me. What does this mean? And there's no stupid questions. Like, we all had to learn what a Roth was at some point. So, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, I want to get into some of the more unconventional things that you and your hubby Lance do because I know that it's going to blow a lot of people's minds because it's stuff that just like isn't very popular. And I would say, and I'll say this before you dive in, I think that they're great solutions if you're very, in a specific position and you're very good with money. But let's talk about it. What is one or multiple pieces of unconventional money wisdom or money tactics that you follow and you believe, other people should learn more about it?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I don't carry debt. I, of course, carry a mortgage, but I'm working on that one right now. And that's something that goes against the grain. Most people think you should borrow money for cheap, make your payments, and invest what you would be overpaying in the stock market or another interest-bearing account. So instead of doing that, I am avoiding hundreds of thousands of dollars of interest, which is what we pay banks to have a mortgage, and I'm rapidly paying down my mortgage. And I use a system called Shred My Mortgage, and it allows us to have what you call a home equity line of credit, which is essentially a credit card against your house. And we can massively pay down our home in big chunks, and then we pay off the equity line of credit when we get paid. So it's just this little buckets of money just going in and out the whole time our mortgage is just going down and down and down and down and down. So in the past year, we've paid off over $120,000 in our mortgage, and that includes a lot of savings that we put into it. And it's really fun. And I watched my interest bill. Every month it was $1,100 going to interest, and then $300 or $400 going to the mortgage. And now it's $600 going to interest, and the rest is going to the principal, going to the mortgage.
Nice.
So it's awesome. And I'm a nerd about finance, so it's just really exciting.
Yeah. It gets you giddy to like think about how much you're saving in interest, which I think most people just don't even think about because debt has become so normalized in our society. So we just take it as like, oh, this is just the expense I have to pay.
Yes. Yep. And that's how banks make money. Like
right.
They take thousands of dollars from us and no one realizes it. And the big thing with a mortgage is the way the interest is calculated. It's all front loaded. So you're paying all your mortgage up front. So if you can flip it over, then you're winning. And now you're at the point where you're borrowing the money for cheap, and then you should start investing it.
Okay. So I want to pause here and try to explain it a little bit, and you can help me out.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I've been doing my research on this. I just did a video about how different ways you can pay off your mortgage super fast. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to learn the HELOC, which is home equity line of credit way of paying off your mortgage super fast. And essentially, a home equity line of credit is very different from a home equity loan. So let's just make that clear first. A line of credit is something that you can get access to a line of credit, but you don't have to spend all of that. So it's very much like a credit card, like you said.
Absolutely.
It's a credit card with, I would say for most people, they could get significantly lower interest rates than what you would get if you had a credit card. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just got one it has 5% interest. It's variable. It can change, but on average it doesn't.
Okay.
Very much.
Okay. So you can get a home equity line of credit against the equity that's already in your home. So you have to have some sort of equity in your home, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So it might take a couple years to build up that equity, especially if you like buy a home with no money down or with like 3% down. But eventually you'll get to a point where you can borrow, get a home equity line of credit for even $20,000 and then use $15,000 of that and put it towards your home.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens then is you have to still pay that money back. But instead of paying it towards your home, because, you're still making your regular home payments, but you can borrow against even more that home equity line of credit. But what you're also doing is you're putting your paycheck in that home equity line of credit. So it bumps it down, you borrow against it a little bit, but the idea is you're consistently living below your means, which means you're spending less than you're making. So you'll eventually pay off that home equity line of credit. And that's significantly less interest rate than that you're paying off, because it's a different type of interest than what is in your home.
You got it. That's exactly what I've been saying over and over for the past year. So,
yes.
Yep.
So I get it. And I know that a lot of people out there potentially don't get it, but I think that because it takes a long time to really visualize this, but I do think if you want to learn more, you should come into the Wealthy Wanderers Facebook group, because we'll be talking about it more, and I will provide you more resources if this is something that interests you, because there's definitely a way that you can utilize financial instruments towards your benefit or for your advantage. And this is one way that I've been like totally mind blown about.
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens also with that HELOC is, you know, the idea is to put all of your excess money into your mortgage, because you're utilizing all of your cash and putting it against the debt. But when you have that HELOC, you have that available to you. So if the furnace breaks, you have money, you have access to money, and you're going to get paid again next month. So it just takes care of it. Right. So it's just making everything work very efficiently. And then once it's paid off or to a really low balance, that's the point where you can invest massive amounts of money into some type of interest-bearing product or asset or something like that. So
yeah. So I just want to clarify again, you take out a line of credit against your home. When you do borrow against your HELOC, let's say you get a $20,000 line of credit. So that's how much you could borrow, but you only take 15 and you put it towards your mortgage. What you're essentially doing is putting a huge chunk of money towards your mortgage, and you're then saving yourself tons of money in interest, because like you said, we pay most of the interest at the beginning and more of the principal at the end. So the more principal you can pay off faster, then you shorten that stick. And it's very similar to student loans, how student loans are paid off. And technically you can do this with student loans, but I would say some people are probably not ready for that.
Yeah, it can and will be used for student loans.
Yeah.
Soon, I'm sure.
So you can take this big chunk of money that you're then taking $15,000 from your HELOC and put it against your mortgage, pay down a huge chunk, essentially save yourself thousands in interest because you would have paid that on your mortgage. And yes, you will be charged interest on your HELOC, but because HELOCs are charged at like a daily rate in interest, which this is where it gets a little complicated. And this has always been my issue, is like, but I'm still then paying down debt, but you're paying down significantly less. You're paying a lot less in interest. And that's the point, is you're saving a lot of money in interest and you'll be debt free faster.
Absolutely.
So it's technical, it's heavy. And if you guys are interested in this, just make sure you come into the Wealthy Wanderers private Facebook group, and Molly is there, so we can kind of tackle it together and show you some really good resources to learn more if you're interested.
Perfect. Yes.
I just volunteered you for that, but
no problem. I obviously love talking about it, so it sounds great.
Okay, we're going to talk about the other thing that you do, and we're going to do a 10,000 foot overview, because I'm going to try to like explain it and then totally fail. But let's talk about it, because this interview especially is all about sharing those unconventional methods. So what's the other thing that you and Mr. Lance do?
So it kind of goes in line with paying down your debt, but it's also, there's a concept out there called infinite banking, which I'm sure you've researched and you're going to help me explain. And
I'll try my best.
It's been around for a long time, but it's just to put it real quickly, it's essentially getting yourself in a position to be your own bank. So when we have to borrow money from a bank to buy a car, or to put a down payment on a home, or a mortgage for your home, you get yourself to a point where you can borrow from yourself through the vehicle of a whole life insurance policy. Mm-hmm. And I always preface this because when people hear whole life, they freak out and they get really like, oh my God, whole life, I've just heard that that's terrible. Yeah. And It kind of is. Like the product, unless you're using it, it has cash value, whatever. The insurance product, that's a whole nother story. But if you're using it this way as a vehicle to borrow from yourself, you have to pay that money back to a bank anyway. So why not just pay it back to yourself? Yeah. So we're doing that. And we're also using that cash to rapidly pay down our mortgage. So for an example, at the beginning of this year, we got a whole life insurance policy that's valued at a lot, like 1.5 million if I were to, something were to happen. And the cash value of it, we had to pay $30,000 into it right away. It's automatically worth $27,000 in cash value. And so I can borrow that back out and put it into my mortgage. At the same time, I still have a whole life policy. I still have a policy that's paying me dividends and interest. I do have to pay interest back to the policy, just like I would have to do to a bank, and it's very similar rates. But it kind of ends up canceling itself out because that policy is paying me interest on my $30,000 principal and dividends.
Wow.
So that's, in a nutshell, how it kind of works. And I just do it year after year, and then it grows and grows and grows.
So you do it for a multiple number of years where you pay like $30,000 to pay for this policy. And yes. So eventually you have like and the policy, it's just one policy.
Yes, one policy for now. And you don't pay that $30,000 for 10 years. I think there's a certain, you have to, don't do this on your own type of thing. There's a certain equation that you have to figure out how to get your policy on this type of plan. Mm-hmm. But for us, we're going to do it for 4 years, and then we'll pay our normal $6,000 annual premium for the life of the policy.
Okay.
But at year 7, the policy will be worth more than the cash that I've put into it. Whereas if you had a normal whole life policy, it takes years for that to happen. Yeah. Like 25 years, because you're paying for insurance. Yep.
Yeah. The kind of summary of this, the things that you do, Molly Rose, are that you utilize financial products in ways where you're kind of using them against themselves. Like you're saying, okay, I see what you're trying to sell here. I'm going to do this, but I'm going to use it in a way that other people don't typically use it because I know and I understand how to use it. And I've worked with professionals who are going to help me use it so that it's for my benefit. Because at the end of the day, insurance, banks, they all need to make money. So they're making money off of us borrowing from them or paying them premiums to bet on whether we're going to die or not this year. Mm-hmm. And that is how business is done. And it's all done in with the idea that eventually we'll be able to own our home outright, but we're going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest depending on the price of your home. Or, you're going to be good if you die, but you've probably paid the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in insurance premiums. So you're using these a little bit differently, or you're using them like against each other in order to capitalize or just pay a lot less or be able to become your own bank. And that's what I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it allows you to be in control.
Yeah. And I'll say, just to add the disclaimer at the end of your infinite banking thing is generally whole life insurance is not a wise choice. And because it's a lot more expensive than term, and there's a lot of things that we can get into. But if you choose to do your life a little differently and you choose to do infinite banking, I'd say that's probably one of the few places, and you know that you can do it. You know you can make those really high premium payments for the first couple of years because you're planning on having this be your financial plan over the future. Yes. And if you choose that, then that's where whole life insurance makes sense because you figured out how to work it. Okay, so we've done it. We got through the very hard to explain concepts, but I'm really excited because I think people will be like, wow, that is something I really have never heard before. And maybe they'll come join our group and learn more.
It certainly opens up the conversation to something different than, doing the Roth Roth IRA, your traditional IRA, you got your 401k, and you're investing in the stock market. I'd say that's what majority of people are taught to do, and this is completely different. So it's a big learning and a total mind shift.
Yeah, and we'll follow up with you in 30 years and see how things are going. Okay, I want to get into the quick and dirty Q&A round, which is just the fun, quick questions that I'm dying to ask. So the first one is a question that is new to the pod, but someone said, like, you should ask this question. So I explained it on the last episode. It is confession time, and I'd love you to share one embarrassing money move that you've made and how you rationalized it. Like... and take it in whatever way you want. And if it's not money, you can also just share an embarrassing story. That's fine too.
Oh goodness. Well, I'll put this out there. I'm not necessarily going to call it embarrassing, but it's current. I am very embarrassed that I bought my BMW 3 years ago.
Why?
Because I think I come from this really awesome money mindset where I want to be frugal and I want to make really good money choices. And I realize how bad of an investment a BMW is in hindsight.
Do you have like breakdown stories, or you're just like, you know what, a car isn't worth it?
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And this wouldn't be embarrassing for normal people because driving a BMW is like a great fun thing to do. And it's really not, the cost of the car really isn't as much more than like a Camry, unless you're buying it new. But it's the cost of keeping it up. And I guess I'm embarrassed because I tout myself as this financially frugal, smart person who's going to beat the game. And here I have this asset that depreciated, $5,000 a year in 3 years, and I just hate it.
Yeah. Girl, I hear you. But I think that's cool.
I mean, I'm going to cry when it goes away, but...
If you love it, then it's fine.
I know.
That's what I say too, is like, at the end of the day, you got to do what feels right for you.
Yep.
It's your money. You get to spend how you want it.
Mm-hmm.
So girl, you love that BMW.
I am. Thanks. It's almost more embarrassing. The embarrassing part of it is probably just saying that. Like, it's not even embarrassing.
No, I get it. It's, sometimes I'm like, living in Italy, so hard. And then I'm like, but I realize that I also am very fortunate to live in Italy. There's parts where I'm like sweating my booty off, but I'm also very fortunate to live in Italy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm always talking about how I'm sweating. That's just like part of the game. I want to confess something too, because I feel like it's only fair. I have my confession because you shared something that I commend you for sharing, because it can be hard to get criticized for being like, oh, I'm ashamed or embarrassed of my BMW. I'm embarrassed of how sometimes, this is hard to explain, but how sometimes ungrateful I am of my living situation. Like, I get to live in Italy, and I have my home in Chicago, and it's a condo, and I'm renting it out on Airbnb, and it's making money. It's great. But I so badly want to move into a new apartment, and I keep making all these excuses for why I'm unhappy in this one. And I can't figure it out. But I just like so badly want to move. Because I think a lot of people think that like I'm living in, the pictures of everyone's Italian vacations. But in reality, I'm like in a suburb in Milan, which is still amazing that I'm living in Milan. But I'm like, oh, I'm so like, life is so hard.
It's not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And I don't know. I think we all have our like struggles that are personal to us. And I think the problem is we feel bad about things, and then we feel ashamed for feeling bad about things, because compared to other people's struggles, it's minute. But I still think, like, I read this Instagram post on this girl that I follow on Instagram. And she was, she had a really bad day. And then someone came and commented on her post and was like, well, at least you're not locked in a cage or something. And it's like, come on, people, like, do we have to get after people's, bad days? Just like, yes, clearly my life is really great, but I still feel like I should be able to be embarrassed of this thing or complain about this really stupid thing,
Mm-hmm.
So that's my confession, is just like, I recognize that I shouldn't be embarrassed or upset about some of these things, but also, like, for me, moving to a new beautiful country has been very, very difficult for me, and that is my confession. So that turned
Thanks
serious.
for sharing. Yes, it did.
But we're keeping it real here. Okay, let's make it more light. What is one non-negotiable money indulgence that you refuse to cut from your budget?
Oh, this is so easy. Travel. I put probably at least $500 a month away for travel.
Girl, you got to prioritize that.
It's just the most important thing in my life.
What is one investment that you firmly believe has helped you get ahead? And a small investment. Let's not talk about the big things that you're doing, but like small $100.
Okay, two parts. Myself is initially what came to mind, which I think anyone can do. I think it took me a long time to realize that by investing in myself, whether it's my knowledge online to do the business work I'm doing, that's a little bit more complex, but just things like books that I should buy that better my mind, and education about whether it's finance or business. And then also I try to go to an annual conference every year. And that's really, it's completely changed the trajectory of what I'm doing by going to these conferences and networking with these people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really important.
I mean, technically we met by you going to a conference. We didn't meet at the conference, but we met by you going to a conference.
That's correct. I left that out of my story. That's like the most influential thing that I ever did in life so far.
What is one thing that you do when you wake up in the morning, and the last thing, or the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, and the last thing you do before bed?
The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is, other than the normal brush your teeth stuff, is I read a section of a book called The Infinite Self. It's a 33 principles about living life, and I just cycle it. So every morning I wake up, I walk to my patio, and I read it. It takes 5 minutes. And when I don't do it, throws me off. So it's an awesome book about the way to live spiritually in so many words.
Cool.
Right before I go to bed, I tell my husband I love him every single time before I close my eyes.
Oh,
I know. Aww.
What is a book or an app or a tool that you totally stand by? And let's make it money related.
The book that I recommend, and I love it, completely changed my lifestyle, is Essentialism. Yeah. It's all about doing things and having things that are essential to your life.
I love that. And like, it's definitely not a money book, but it's definitely a priorities book. And I think that your money can be so highly and heavily impacted by what you prioritize. Absolutely. And in a roundabout way. Yeah. It's a lifestyle, and your finances are your lifestyle in some regard. Yeah. Absolutely. Your finances reflect your lifestyle.
There we go. You're so much better with words.
Oh, you just inspired me. Thank you. Molly Rose, this was so much fun, and I'll tell you why. You're obviously a friend to me. No, what I meant to say is, to the audience, obviously we are good friends, and I have so badly wanted to bring people onto the podcast. And like, even the last year and a half, as I was thinking about bringing it back, I was like, I just want to bring people on that I love and I know that we can just sit back and chat. Because, I mean, typically with my girlfriends especially, we do have a lot of open conversations about money. And it's just kind of natural because we're so used to talking about it. And so even if you were so lost on this concept of infinite banking and shredding your mortgage, at least you got to hear what it's like if you lack those girlfriend friendships where you talk openly about money. You can see and you can join our conversation. And that's what I really loved about this interview. So thank you.
Yes, me as well. Thank you for having me, Tess.
Thank you for being a friend.
Oh, yeah, any day.
So I want to wrap up. Don't forget, you guys, we talked about so many things, but Molly has a really, really awesome platform. And if you're looking to up-level your life and make some more money on the side so you can start all of these crazy things like her, or just, start investing, pay off your debt faster, whatever it is, you can check out her stuff. And I'm going to let her tell you where you can find her and get her good stuff. So Molly, take it away.
Yeah, so go to the academyforvirtualassistants.com, and I've set Wander Wealthy up with a discount code. So for anyone that signs up, you get $50 off until the end of August. Just use the coupon code Wander Wealthy, and I'm sure we'll have a link to it as well. So I hope to see you in the program. It's an awesome, life-changing thing, and it's done so much good for me and for the students that have gone through it. So check it out.
Molly Rose, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.